Hey guys, welcome back to the. Whoa, why am I hearing it again? Oh, because there's the YouTube open on mine. I can hear the team going on in the background somewhere. I don't know which. I don't know which link it is. It's somewhere there though. Anyways, hey guys, welcome back to the Adler podcast. Today is episode number 49, close to episode number 50. And Joe, it's good to finally have you back. It's been a while since we've seen you. How's it
Yeah,
going, Joe?
yes, certainly has been a while. Been extremely busy, but I think we're finally seeing a bit of a end in sight. Like even busy to the point of this month. Before this weekend, the last time I went to watch a film was Killers of the Flower Moon, which came out right at the
Ooh,
beginning of this month, and
okay.
we're in the last week. Which for
Yeah.
someone like me who goes to the theater very often, it's impressive.
Yep. Yep. That's true. That's very true. But apart from that, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've got a nice holiday coming up in 2 days, so that'll be a nice little break, change of scenery, bit of a change of everything. So looking forward to that.
Nice, nice, nice. Good, good to hear. Good to hear. And today we've got a couple of three movies actually to review today. Today we're going to be reviewing Rustin, which was released on Netflix last week. I failed to watch it last week because of stuff, but I got to watch it this week, so we'll be reviewing that. Joe got to watch Saltburn, lucky him. We won't get that in Malta for, I'm guessing, quite a while till it goes out on digital. And to conclude today, we'll be reviewing Napoleon. I'm excited to talk about that. I I've read so much about Napoleon and I've done so much research about Napoleon in my years at school and like at university that watching a movie about Napoleon was fascinating for all the right and wrong reasons. We'll get into that in our review. With regard to news this week, we've not got much, Joe. We've got the box office to talk about. We'll be talking about Wish, Napoleon, Hunger Games, how all those movies have been doing. We'll be talking about Scream 7, obviously. If you follow the industry, you'll know that there's been quite a lot of controversy with regard to what happened to Melissa Barrera, her comments. We'll get into that. Then we'll get into Jenna Ortega as well, and what happened to her. And obviously, what is the future for Scream 7? Because without its two leads, what's the future there for Scream 7? We'll get into that in the news. So that's it with regard to news. Not much to talk about there. So, Joe, before we get into what we've been up to, thankfully, unfortunately, you can't benefit from it, but this podcast is sponsored by Embassy. Thank you, Embassy, for sponsoring this podcast. And I went to Embassy last Friday to watch Napoleon. It was a great experience as always. Great sound, great screen. Really, really helps with that. And this week, we've got a few movies showing at Embassy Cinema. First of all, obviously, we've got Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. I saw the trailer for this, Joe. I don't know if you saw the trailer, but it looks actually really
I saw the
beautifully
trailer
shot.
yesterday. Actually, it looks yeah. I think it looks like it's shot on film, which would
Yeah,
be incredible and extremely expensive for them to do, but also a very like cool creative choice. I need to actually like look up a bit more about it. But yeah, it definitely looks more interesting. And this is no hate to Taylor Swift. I actually don't mind Taylor Swift at all. It looks a lot more interesting than the Taylor Swift movie, The Eras Tour.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff as well. Apparently, I was just reading a review about it whilst I was going through the news yesterday. There seems to be some interesting behind the scenes stuff as well. But yeah, I think if you're a fan of Beyonce, this is definitely one you can't miss out on. Napoleon, which obviously I got to watch
Yeah.
last Friday at Embassy, which we'll be reviewing later on. Napoleon, which has surprisingly done quite well at the box office. We'll get into that in the news later on. Wish, which is a Disney movie, Disney animated movie, which is finally releasing in Malta on Wednesday, 29th November, which I'll probably going to watch it on Wednesday after work. Probably will be my plan for Wednesday. Box office wise, hasn't been doing great. Critics wise, same thing, but the audience score seems to be quite high on Rotten Tomatoes. So there's that for Wish, which is, I think, still worth a visit to the cinema with your family. Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Have you watched Hunger Games, Joe?
I have not. No, I don't have too much interest in it, to be fair,
Okay.
because being a previous fan of the Hunger Games books when I was younger, and I liked the older films. I don't have the capacity to go and watch a 2 hour and 45-minute movie based on young adult novels. And that's not me saying that with any kind of disrespect. That is just a personal preference to myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
So there's the Hunger Games. I personally enjoyed watching it quite a bit, but the length is it's a long movie. It's 2 hours 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It should have, in my opinion, it should have been split up into two movies. But it's a good movie. I mean, production design, music is all great stuff as always with the
Yeah.
Hunger Games movie.
I'm sure I'll watch it when it comes on digital.
Yeah, I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth watching. The Marvels, which well, I got to watch it at Embassy as well. I went to watch it with my family. I'll say this: it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's if nothing else, The Marvels is a fun movie. Now, obviously, its box office results are quite well known. We've talked about it in the past couple of weeks. I'll mention it just briefly today as well because there are a lot of records going on there. But if nothing else, The Marvels is a very fun movie. And some of the action is shot really well in The Marvels. So there's that for it. Five Nights at Freddy's, which has been doing excellent at the box office. I think Five Nights at Freddy's is definitely a movie which is made for the fans of the games. Now, I'm not a fan of the games. I have never played them, so it clearly was not made for someone like me. But if you're a fan of the games, I'm sure you've probably already been to the cinema to watch Five Nights at Freddy's. And what that will conclude with Retribution, which has its last showing tomorrow. Obviously, there's today and tomorrow, and Trolls Band Together, which has surprisingly been receiving quite decent reviews for an animated movie. So there's that. So all those movies are showing at Embassy Cinemas this week. Thank you very much to Embassy for sponsoring this podcast. And with that, we can get into our week. Joe, what have you been up to this week? Well, past weeks. What have you been
Yeah.
watching? Anything interesting to tell our viewers and listeners? By the way, before you get into it, Joe, thank you to all the viewers and listeners joining us right now. Let us know in the comment section below what you've been up to this week. What have you been watching? Tell us. Tell us. We'd like to know that. And Joe, with that, that's your cue.
So watching, I've actually watched quite a bit. Obviously, I've been missing for quite a while. I didn't get to do the Killers of the Flower Moon episode. I didn't get to do the Killer episode either. Both of those I have watched. I feel like I finished something recently. No, actually, I had started because For My Sins is going to be big confession of someone that loves films. I've only ever seen one David Lynch production, which
Oh,
is
wow.
Mulholland Drive. Very like not that I. It's just someone like I've always wanted to get into his films. I've only ever seen Mulholland Drive, and like just never got around to actually watching anything else. Actually, no, bit of a lie. I've seen the one. I think it's called Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. I've also seen that as well.
Okay.
Um, but because I've also been playing Alan Wake 2, which,
Hmm.
if anyone is not playing Alan Wake 2, you should first go back and play Alan Wake, and then you should play Control, and then you should play Alan Wake 2, because definitely my favorite game of the year so far. I've played about 8 hours of it. Don't get to play as much as I would like, but when I do, I get a good hour and a half in, and it constantly blowing my mind. Like it's ridiculous. It's one of the best looking games I've ever seen. I think my favorite game since the PS5 generation, and that's like considering I've played God of War
Sure.
Ragnarok. It's incredible the things they're doing, and I know that the influences of Alan Wake, a lot of it comes from David Lynch and from Twin Peaks in particular. And I'm like, I've never actually seen Twin Peaks, so being on the kind of like Alan Wake vibe, I went back and I started Twin Peaks. I'm almost done with the first season. It's a really odd but really interesting show because it was made, I believe, in I think 1989 and 1990, the first season at least. It's extremely like soap opera from like the soundtrack to the vibe and like some of the acting as well. And that's not an insult on the show at all, but it's then also really grim because it's about
Hmm.
the the I guess the murder of a young girl in this town of Twin Peaks. So the subject matter is quite heavy and like some of the themes it deals with, but it's also really silly at the
Hmm.
same time. Like there's this really strange quirkiness where it's really dumb at times, like the quirkiness that comes into it. So it's this really nice blend. And then I see where a developer like Remedy kind of got their kind of, I'm not going to say totally, but they got their kind of style from with these like really deep, dark things. And they're quite meta, but they're also a little bit silly at times. Really enjoying Twin Peaks. I started The Curse as well but I have only seen one episode of The Curse. The episode I did see, I really enjoyed. People that know me know I'm a huge Nathan Fielder fan. And I like that this is really different from what he's done before. People that don't know, haven't seen anything by Nathan Fielder, like, for example, Nathan For You, or more recently, The Rehearsal, his shows tend to be mostly reality based, where he is playing a fictionalized version of himself, but he's interacting with real people as if he's doing real things.
Mm-hmm.
Like both in The Rehearsal and in Nathan For You. So, like Nathan For You, a short example of that is he kind of pretends to be someone who graduated from business school, and he wants to help smaller, struggling businesses try like a big stunt in order to gain more customers. So, like, he makes people do ridiculous things, but the whole thing is a great study on like how you can kind of, he calls it like socially undressing people
Mm.
by convincing them that like no idea like is too crazy and people really go for it. The Curse is really interesting because it's his first like properly scripted thing with other actors in it, because obviously there's Emma Stone, there's Benny Safdie,
Mm.
but there's still that like really biting awkwardness that no one does like Nathan Fielder does, where like you want to crawl into your sofa and never see it again.
Jesus.
It's so
Episode
awkward.
3. Madonna. I
Yeah,
was.
I've been hearing things of like, luckily no spoilers, but like just like people being like, "Holy shit, where is this show going?" But I also like that it's got this kind of vibe of like, it feels kind of like a comedy, but also like a horror at the same time. You don't know where shit's going, so you're kind of like, should I laugh? Should I be afraid? But yeah, I'm gonna make sure to download the episodes onto my iPad before traveling, and I'll
Yeah.
definitely catch up whilst I'm traveling, because I've got a long flight to Dubai. So,
Yeah, true, 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 true.
but yeah,
Think you'll
no,
enjoy it.
yeah. Apart from that, I don't think I've watched much more than that. I said Twin Peaks has really like taken up my time because the episodes
Yeah.
are about an hour each. So yeah, that's me.
Very good. So, in my case, this week I was quite busy. I watched quite a few movies. Oh, because I was sick, that's why. So, I started off the week. Last week, I made a promise to Franco that I would watch few of the Monsterverse movies. Funnily enough, as I was watching the movies, I noticed I had watched them already. So, Kong Skull Island, I completely forgot about it. I had watched it apparently. Kong Skull Island. It was a fun time. It was a fun time. I think it wasn't taking itself too seriously. Let me bring it up on my screen. It wasn't taking itself too seriously. I mean, there's some good humor, some very funny shots as well. We had talked about one of those scenes, Joe, a few weeks ago when
Yes,
you had
the
described the most
the
dead
most dead
man ever
person
on.
there's ever been in a film.
And it's funny because he's making this like last stand,
Yeah,
and the monsters just like boom, boom. That's what's funny. But to be fair, then there's some very beautifully shot scenes as well. The helicopter scene, for example, with
yeah,
obvious inspiration from, certain, obvious Vietnam movies. There are some, and to be fair, respect to the movie as well, is that Kong is a big part of it. It's not like with many
yeah,
of these monster verse movies where the monster is there but you barely see him. Lots of scenes where you can hear the sound but not see. Kong is a central figure in this movie. I would imagine the budget they had for this movie was enormous
yeah.
because there's a lot of CGI. Very goofy as well. Talking about goofy, very goofy movie at times with Tom Hiddleston running
Completely goofy at
with
times.
his katana killing pterodactyls.
Yeah,
Jesus,
in
that
the
scene.
flammable gas where they're using a flamethrower.
Yes, and then the funniest moment of that was then he takes off his mask, his gas mask, as he's in the gas, and he turns to the camera and smiles at that scene. Just I burst out laughing. My girlfriend was like, "What are you watching? Is it a comedy?" I'm like, I guess it is, kind of. I guess it is, but it was fun. It was a really fun time. I mean, I didn't watch this in the cinema. I'd have loved to watch this in the cinema, to be honest. So
Yeah,
that's Kong Skull Island. Godzilla, which very different, obviously, very different style to Kong Skull Island. Godzilla is a much more serious, much more grounded take on the Godzilla character. I had a blast watching this. I really, really enjoyed watching it. I had watched this a long time ago. I think when it came out, I watched this. Don't remember liking it as much, but watching it now, some of the scenes in this are spectacular. Like this scene when they're diving down, that is cinema. That's like pure cinema. And Godzilla, the way the movie is shot is always the camera is always looking up to Godzilla, making Godzilla look enormous.
Yeah.
Like he is scary in this. I think it's a beautifully made movie. I don't get well, I kind of get the criticism because the first time I watched it, I didn't really like it. But watching it now, maybe now I'm a bit more, versed with like movies and what makes a good movie and what doesn't make a good movie. Watching it now, I really, really, really had a good time. By the way, Joe, Francesca said that Twin Peaks gave me all the nightmares.
I can get that. Like with where it's going, with where I am in the show, I can totally get that.
How's it going, Francesca? All right. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Francesca. I was on Friday. She went to watch Napoleon as well, but she was
Okay.
at the 8 o'clock screening. I was in the 8:45 screening at Embassy.
Okay.
So we thought we were going to see each other, but unfortunately, the Embassy had two screenings: at
Yeah.
8, one at 8 and one at 8:45. So yeah, Godzilla is a fantastically made movie. I think thinking about Godzilla, I would say it's might rank as my favorite Gareth Edwards movie. I think I like it more than Rogue One. I don't know.
I'd have to watch it again. I remember with Godzilla really liking the intro, and really liking the end. And there's the spectacular, like truly spectacular skydiving scene. But it's the problem with like all Gareth Edwards movies, like it grinds to a halt at a certain point in the
Yes,
second
that's
act,
true.
and it tries to go into like the human drama, which like it's a Godzilla movie. I don't give a fuck about the human drama. But like in terms of spectacle and the way it looks, incredible. That's
And
something which
tension. I
he's
think tension
credible for.
wise, it's really well made. Like the tension that builds in the
Hmm.
movie. There's that, as you said. I think pretty much every movie he's made so far has this issue and the issue of characters because
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the characters in Godzilla are boring,
yeah.
so boring. I'm not interested at all in what's going on there. So, which is a pity. Which is a pity because visually, he's a master. He's a
Hmm.
master of this craft. Great at words. Anyway, so that is Godzilla. I watched Rustin, which I will review, like I said, later on. It's an interesting watch. Mostly, I'll focus on the performance, but yeah, I watched Rustin. Obviously, we watched Napoleon, and I had a few rewatches this week as well. I got to rewatch Back to the Future. I mean, I was sick. It's a feel-good movie, so I watched Back to the Future. Still, man, I hadn't watched Back to the Future in quite a while, huh?
Yeah,
And
I
it
haven't
still
watched it
holds
since I
up,
was a kid.
Astra. It still holds up so well. Like it's such a when I think about like energetic movie, like a really really energetic, like fast-paced, fun movie, like Back to the Future is I think probably the first movie to come to mind. It's such a well-made movie. Sci-fi elements are done so well. It's funny. The action. There's not a lot of action in Back to the Future.
Hmm.
In my head there was much more action, but
Yeah,
I think it's just because the little action there is just so well made. The theme song obviously still holds up perfectly today. Like they don't make these kind of like fun theme songs as much anymore. There are a few, but generally the themes are quite serious. Franco commenting Gareth Edwards should direct the next James Bond movie. Hot take. See you soon, guys. Interesting.
hmm. I'm not
Gareth
sure I
Edwards
agree.
making
I'm not sure I agree with Franco there.
the character part. Hey, that would be the
That's
worry.
why. Yeah, it's a big thing.
And
And
the
like
character of James Bond.
he's really good at making like things seem really big.
Hmm.
It's like what he did in the Creator, like the ships and stuff like that. I'm not sure there's like much to do with James Bond there, but I mean, who am I to say?
Yeah, because then with someone like, for example, comparing and contrasting Gareth Edwards to someone like Denis Villeneuve, for example, who again
Yeah,
is a master of visuals, but then makes very interesting characters as well in his movies. And
yeah,
I feel like even though there were some complaints with Dune, I personally didn't feel the length in
no,
Dune at all. I know some people complained about how it sagged like midway through as well. I
hmm,
personally didn't feel that at all in the case with Dune. But Denis Villeneuve creates like fantastic characters as well. So there's that.
yeah,
Uh, Gareth Edwards, maybe the writing needs some help with the writing. Maybe I don't know
he
who
definitely
does the
does.
screenplays for his movies, whether it's him or whether he has.
Uh, yeah, I believe no, he writes on I think at least he partially writes on most of his work. So
Yeah, he probably needs a little help there. And to conclude, um, uh, I watched. Wow, man, this movie just broke me. Like, I'm still thinking about it today. Grave of the Fireflies,
Yeah,
which, if you have not watched, I don't know. It's Don't get me wrong. This is, I think, one of the best movies I've ever watched. But I don't know if I recommend it
yeah, it's a tough hang.
because the way I felt after. I don't want people to feel the way I felt after watching this movie.
Yeah,
Like, it's one of the best movies I've ever watched. Period. Like, no discussion. Hey, Stefan. All right, how's it going? Glad I tuned in. Happy to have you here, Stefan. We're just talking about Grave of the Fireflies, and if you really want to feel depressed and really sad, watch this. Like, it just took my heart out and destroyed it into a million pieces. It's an incredibly emotional movie, incredibly moving movie. The way it tackles the end, like Japan at the end of the World War II and post World War II, is excellent. It's brilliantly made, brilliantly made. Like, everything about it is brilliant. It's just a really tough watch. Joe, what do you remember about The Grave of the Flies?
I remember being very sad.
Yeah. Jesus. Ah,
But no,
Rachel.
it's like you say, like it's masterful storytelling, but it's one, like I agree with you. Like, it's hard to recommend
Mhm.
to someone. Like, it's not one where I go like, holy shit, you should watch this movie. It's really good. It's when I go, this movie is really good. You should stay clear away from it and never watch it ever.
Yeah, yeah. I agreed completely. Still, to be fair, I'm glad I watched it because it's one of those which were missing in my like list of movies
Yeah,
you need to watch before you die.
yeah.
And with that series, The Curse, episode 3, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, episode 3, and A Murder at the End of the World, also episode 3. um, to just really quickly, I think The Curse episode 3 was fantastic. I think I'm really having a good time watching it. I also highly recommend The Murder at the End of the World. It's on Hulu, on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
I'll pass. Thanks. I barely made it through Juventus last night. Yeah, Jesus, the last night's match, Juventus was so depressing. Like, I'm the kind of guy who watches matches. Like, I'm not the kind of guy who looks at his mobile at all during an inter match, especially during an inter match. And yesterday I was constantly on my phone in the second half. Second half was so depressing, man. It's just one of the saddest second halves I've ever watched in Serie A. And these are movie one. I'm still thinking about movies. The team that's in first place and the team that's in second place. Like, it was one of the most depressing matches I've ever watched. Hello, Franco.
What
How's it
what
going?
what matches? What matches?
Juventus yesterday was so depressing, man. So depressing.
Who won though?
No one won. No one
Ah,
deserved
okay.
to win. It was a draw, 1-1. To be fair, the goals were great. The two goals at the first half were brilliant. Like, the first half was quite decent, actually. But the second half, Maton, that was so boring. Anyways, we're not here to talk about football. Franco, I was just talking about the series I've been watching. The Curse, episode 3, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, and A Murder at the End of the World.
The
You know, we want
curse.
to start off with that.
The curse episode 3, Madon. Just a second.
Oh,
Uh,
so
I,
awkward.
I've never. I really got to hand it to Benny Safdie and Nathan Fielder. I'm sorry, they're a match made in heaven because the amount of tension, and I've never felt my body go like this.
Ilal,
You
man.
know, I've never known a movie or a series
Hey,
making me go like.
Oh, look. Oh, hey, guys. I'm trying to do this without giving any spoilers, but oh, my lord, it's so awkward.
You guys need to
Jesus.
go back and watch Nathan
Ju-
Fillion and the
Just a
rehearsal.
second.
Yeah, I think I do. I think I
Just
do.
so you
Joe.
just so you can see him do it with like real life people that think they're having their like business sorted out for them.
Jesus, it's so awkward, but it's so good at the same time. That's the thing about it.
So Stefan Kotair said, "I'll pass. Thanks. I barely made it through Juventus last night."
Yeah.
That,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Juventus last night. It seems like it was like The Curse episode 3, apparently.
No, but the curse is actually good. Awkward, but very good. Like, the match was just bad.
I generally don't understand like how it's being rated this poorly.
Same here.
This
I think my theory is because of the platform it's on. The kind of like people that have Paramount Plus and Showtime are not the kind of people that will watch this kind of stuff. They're there for like fucking Yellowstone or some shitty series of like Sylvester Stallone in it. You know,
Could be.
they're
True,
not they're
true,
not
true.
there for this kind of stuff. So they're probably like going in it and they're like, oh, Emma Stone, okay, I know who she is, and they're like, oh, that Benny Safdie guy, like he made that cool movie Uncut Gems. Like I'll watch that. He was an Oppenheimer, and then they're probably like, what the fuck is this?
True. So that's the curse. Franco, what do you think about Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, episode 3?
So far, it's okay. It's the story is flowing. Like I said, I hope it doesn't get stuck into that rut of like, okay, here's the monster at the end. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only thing. Otherwise, like, I'm really liking Kurt Russell.
yes.
Even his son. Wyatt
And
is
his
also.
son is great. I think I actually like his son the most in the series so far.
Yeah. They do like. It seems like the apple didn't fall far from the tree, as they say in English.
By the way, Franco, Stefan was referring to the grave of the fireflies. With
Okay.
regard to, like, a incredibly depressing movie, not the curse.
But speaking of Monarch, today I found out that a cinema, another local cinema in Malta, is going to show Godzilla -1. So that's quite a good news.
That's a good sign.
I also watched Murder at the End of the World. I convinced my father to start watching it as well.
Nice.
Episode 3 is also like nail biting, like where the hell is it going with great performances throughout, just the whole ensemble cast, I have to say. And I also started Scavenger's Reign. I highly recommended, guys. So far, episode 3, I've arrived up to episode 3. At first, I was wondering why the humans are not as detailed, are not as detailed as the rest of the ambience and the environment of the planet. But then I got used to it, and it's makes for a very fascinating watch so far.
With regard to the animation.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Because even when you see when you see the humans, their features are quite plain. Like there's not even cheekbones or anything. Obviously, then there's a guy who's who's starving, so to speak, but no, not so to speak. Like he's starving, but if you notice, like you see the hair like very plain, very flat almost, but then the rest of the environment looks absolutely gorgeous and very well painted. And Yella, if she's watching, she's right. It looks like something out of Mobius would have drawn.
The animation is stunning. Looking at it now, like
This
looks great.
It's amazing, and even and story wise, like there are at least 3 storylines going on, and very well defined. Like I can see where they I can follow through all 3 of them easily. It's like, and I really like the relationship between the robot Levi with his owner Ozzy. It's very interesting. Like even the episodes are very manageable, like 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see where they're going through. I'm not sure if the director Victor, I don't know if it's Chui or Tsui. One of the directors did directed another one called Parthenon. I'm not sure, but there's also from Wumi. Can you go down just to pronounce her name? Yeah, Wunmi Mosaku from Low-Key Lovecraft Country.
Oh, okay, Lovecraft Country. Yeah.
Great. She's doing a great job with it, with her voice acting as well. I mean, then again, she's a great actress.
By the way, Franco, Stefan said, not sure what you think of Haunting in Venice. Have you guys watched Haunting in Venice?
I have not watched it.
I might watch it together with my father, maybe sometime this week or this weekend.
So I got to watch it at Embassy. I had a good time watching it. My parents didn't like it that much because my parents went to watch it a couple of weeks after me. They didn't like it. I had a good time. It's slow, but I think it's well shot. I think Branagh is having a very good time in the role as always. He loves the Poirot role. I think it's probably the best of the three, to be honest. Probably because of the horror elements. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic in the little time she has on screen, because Michelle Yeoh, unfortunately, due to something that happens, doesn't appear for a very long time in the movie. But I think the little time she has is excellent. Overall, it's a well-made movie. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites of the year. I think I gave it like a 3 or a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, something around that range. So yeah, Stefan, I watched it. I liked it, didn't love it. It's slow, at times a bit too slow, but the whodunit element I think is done well. The horror elements as well. There are some horror elements there which are done really well visually. Some of the lighting is well done. The setting is great. I love Venice, so obviously visually it's really well shot, beautifully shot. So overall, and it helps a lot that it's shot on location, unlike what they had with the Nile movie, Murder. Oh, which one was the Nile movie?
Murder on the Nile.
Murder on the
No,
Murder
Death on the Nile. Death on the Nile.
Death on the Nile. Death on the Nile.
It's
That's
Murder on the
Murder.
Orient Express.
The Death on the Nile, which I didn't mind either, but like visually, you could tell this is not Egypt. This is just like all CGI, which was awkward, which was a bit awkward. But like performances wise as well, I had a good time with Death on the Nile. But yeah, so yeah, I think it was a fairly decent movie. Anything else, Franco, you wanted to talk about?
No, I also watched Napoleon with you guys. Looking forward to watching Thanksgiving. It's coming out this. It's coming out this Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I know Wish comes out on Wednesday. I didn't see anything about Thanksgiving, at least on the embassy website. When you're doing the sponsored section.
It's on coming soon, no?
It is, but it's not. At least it's not coming out this week, because on the embassy website it wasn't showing. But anyways, we'll talk about it later on.
Just a second. They took it. No, they took it off. I remember
it's not coming out this week. Let's put it that way, because we just checked the embassy website for the sponsor section.
Gotcha.
Let's move on. This week, guys, we have no trailers, so no trailers to discuss. With regard to news, also, it's not like there's a lot of news to talk about. But really quickly, I'd just like to skim through the box office, how that's been doing. Wish has not been doing very well. Wish, which I'll be going to watch on Wednesday, probably. Like the title says, fizzles, literally fizzles. Considering it's a Thanksgiving holiday, it goes way below expectations with a weak $19.5 million over the traditional weekend. Not as catastrophic as Strange World, but another Disney flop, with the only exception this year being Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The thing that might help it is that audiences seem to like it, with a A- on cinema score, although critics have basically panned it with I think it's like on 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's Wish. Don't know, guys, if you have any interest in going to watch Wish.
I mean, my face says it all.
So yeah, not at all. Napoleon.
Did I mention last time that there was I don't know if you've seen it. There was a comparison between it and Moana, the singing bit of in Wish, and the singing bit in Moana.
I don't think so. I don't think I've watched it.
I'll link you later, because I was quite totally surprised by how the difference. Like Moana said, I was usually I'm not the kind of guy to watch animated movie. Call me party pooper. But when I watched this one, I wanted to see Moana more than I wanted to see Wish. So there.
I mean, Moana's a better movie than Wish, probably. So,
and I'm
right
and I'm so looking forward to the live action. So looking forward.
Let's move on from that.
By the way, by the way,
Yeah.
quickly. Sorry, hi Joe, because we missed you. Finally, we meet. We are the good, the bad, and the stupid again. So
The Holy Trinity are back.
the Holy Trinity is back.
Napoleon, which, like I said at the start, is doing surprisingly well, with 29 million and 32.5 million in its first 5 days of release. Globally, Napoleon generates $78.8 million, meaning it emerged victorious at the worldwide box office for a movie which is 2 hours, 40 minutes long, 30 minutes, 40 minutes long. I think that's a decent result, considering the competition as well, because you've got Wish, there was Hunger Games, which domestically was the winner, adding 28.8 million, having one of the lowest drops from week 1 to week 2 of the whole year, basically, which means that it's going to be a success because audiences are liking what they're seeing. Critics, not so much. It's a mixed bag with the critics, but audiences seem to be enjoying the Hunger Games prequel movie and going to watch it again and again. And considering the low budget for it, low budget, 100 million, but I mean, for that kind of movie, that's a low budget. It's doing really well. Franco, Thanksgiving took 5th place with 7.1 million over the weekend and 11.1 million over the 5-day stretch, generating 24 million to date, which is decent given that it cost just 50 million to produce. So a decent result for Thanksgiving, but not as successful as you would hope.
Very decent, though. How much again? 15 million?
In total, it has generated $24 million to date. Obviously, just domestically, because I think worldwide it hasn't released yet.
Yeah.
Has it released there, Joe?
Which one?
Thanksgiving.
I don't know. Let me check right now.
Malta, at least it hasn't.
I really burst out laughing because on Instagram, Edgar Wright posted a photo of him with Eli Roth, who's the director of Thanksgiving. And he's like, fuck this guy, because now I have to do my own Grindhouse movie, because Thanksgiving basically Thanksgiving was part of those fake trailers that was shown as part of the Grindhouse duology. And basically it's like now I have to think about doing Don't now as well. That guy, which hey, I'm up for it, huh? I mean,
apparently Thanksgiving is out in some cinemas over here.
Okay, all right. Well, it hasn't come out a month at least. Hopefully it does come out very soon. And apart from that, there's the Marvels still doing terribly. It's going to be I wrote it down here. I wrote down a note here. It hasn't come close to matching the opening weekend of its predecessor, 2019's Captain Marvel. Opening weekend. That's not going to make the opening weekend of Captain Marvel.
Madonna.
Like its whole box office run is not going to make the opening weekend of Captain Marvel. And it's shaping up to be the first MCU movie to fall short of $100 million at the domestic box office, which is a complete disaster. So disaster there for the Marvels. And surprisingly, Five Nights at Freddy's became the highest grossing Blumhouse release of all time with $283.1 million, surpassing the global tally of M. Night Shyamalan's Split, which is interesting to hear.
And it's still going strong here in Malta, no?
It's still going strong here in Malta, yeah. Yeah, still going strong here in Malta. So that's it with regard to the box office. I don't know, guys, if you want to mention anything about that, or else we can move on to the interesting news of this week, which was the whole Scream 7 controversy. I know you guys probably have some thoughts.
Melissa who?
Melissa Barrera. Just to introduce this, and then I'll leave you guys to talk about it. By the way, Melissa Barrera, who was great in Scream 6 and Scream 5. Well, it's just Scream, right? Scream and then Scream 6. But it says Scream 5. Who was great together with what's her name? Wednesday.
Jenna Ortega.
Together with Jenna Ortega. They made a great duo lead, in my opinion. She was fired from the Scream franchise by Spyglass Entertainment due to controversial comments she made on Instagram regarding the conflict in Gaza, which I'll bring on screen now. That's her statement. This is the comment. Gaza is currently being treated like a concentration camp, concerning everyone together with nowhere to cornering. People have learned nothing from our histories, and just like our histories, people are still silently watching it all happen. This is genocide and ethnic cleansing. Guys, what do you think about this, Spyglass?
Oh yeah, Spyglass. They showed there was another guy who was making. He's apparently he's a comedian, and his tweets were unhinged, unhinged. I'm not joking. Like unhinged, and it's like oh because they're going after us. What's her name? Amy Schumer as well is also was also unhinged. Sarah
Oh
Silverman.
my God, I'm your Schumer, Madonna, too much.
And even Sarah Silverman had to retract what she said and she said because she was high apparently. Allah, yeah. I mean, no, it's granted. It's insane. What's going on is insane. Like have basically in London there was this anti-Semitism march, fine enough, but apparently out of all people attending this anti-Semitism march was the English Defence League boss Tommy Robinson. So it's like, I mean, what's going on? And mind you know why the far right is in favor of Israel, because they don't want Jews running running around in their neighborhoods, basically.
It's a weird one, eh? It's a very weird one.
No,
Hearing
it's
far right supports Israel.
no, I've been watching lots. I will actually shout out some really good journalists. Not really good. They're great journalists, courageous journalists. Motaz Aziza, if I'm not mistaken, on Instagram. Bear with me a second. I'm looking up the names. So I've been watching these. Yeah, Motaz Aziza, Motaz underscore Azaiza, and also BY Plestia. They've been really showing what the horror they've been going through. Like even her, but Plestia is like she's mentioning all the streets that used to be populated with restaurants now torn into rubble. Motaz Azaiza again. I have to watch it carefully because some yeah, there might be some terms of services
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he doesn't shy away from showing the
fair enough. We'll stop there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I feel like at least there's the ceasefire and it's extended for 2 days, and so far, touch wood, it stopped, even though there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. No, but it's insane. What's going on is insane. Like they're conflating one thing, anti-Semitism, with another which has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I mean, because what's happening is genocide. Full stop. There's no more way to call it. People in the government of Israel said exactly what their plans are. Plain and simple. There's no denying that. You can go and check out some the statements made by Netanyahu himself. So what she said was not out of the ordinary, was not like some unhinged rant, and it's part and parcel of this campaign that's going on. Other than that, the quicker this ends, the better, because understandably, though this happens, there are some stupid people that will do anti-Semitic shit, and
Yeah.
I'm not in that. I'm not in that camp. Like that doesn't give you an excuse to just because someone like some stupid prime minister is doing prime minister. What is he? Netanyahu. Whatever he is, he's a war
Whatever
criminal
he is.
anyway.
Joe, don't know if you want to add anything about the Melissa Barrera story.
Um, it's just, as Frank was saying, it's a bit ridiculous that someone can lose their job over pointing out the obvious at this point, you know? Like it's just scary because it just shows how much closer we are to fascism than we probably actually want to admit. And in a country like America, one of the most powerful countries in the world, it's shocking to see that you can say something, as Franco said, which the government themselves are kind of laid out. And it is genocide. There are war crimes happening all the time in this conflict from both sides, obviously. to not kind of like be like one is worse than the other. The whole thing is very messed up, and as Franco said, the sooner it stops, the better for everyone. But it's a bit ridiculous that it seems that I seem to be seeing it more and more from at least American news media. I can come out and I can fully support Israel and I can go on a march and nothing happens to me. But then if you speak out for Palestine, you can be fired for it. And I don't even think she was specifically just beating on about Palestine. She was just saying, look, genocide, bad, stop. You know, in
How
three
dare
simple
you?
words. It's good to see that everyone seems to be dropping out. And to make this a little bit more lighthearted on subject matter, I do like the kind of like meme that this whole Scream resignation has spawned, because all I saw for the last week are different, like basically joke publications. There's a lot of them on Twitter, especially like there's Disbussing Film, which is obviously a joke on discussing film, where they've just been reporting multiple people like leaving Scream due to like creative differences.
Yeah. Including
So
someone we can see on the screen right now.
Yeah,
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega has actually left, but they're like, oh, Ghostface has left Scream 7 due to creative differences. Then they're like they report again, like this just in, John Cena said he's willing to come in and take the role of Ghostface in Scream. Like, so on the more lighthearted front, it's I did enjoy seeing that, but yeah, the whole thing is just fucking ridiculous.
By the way, Jenna Ortega leaving because of scheduling problems. By the way, I just had this news pop up right now as a notification, because apparently Jenna Ortega is sticking by co-star Melissa Barrera after the latter's controversial post, blah, blah, blah. Ortega, whose commitment to the Netflix hit Wednesday allegedly forced her to drop out of Scream 7 on the heels of her friend's firing, took to Instagram to like a post summarizing Barrera's saga, reports TMZ. That like, however, has since disappeared. News of the supposed like comes amid widespread speculation that the timing of Ortega's exit was a bit too coincidental to be anything but a demonstration of solidarity. It's like a few hours, maybe a day after the whole Melissa Barrera thing, and they have scheduling problems. Wow. What a coincidence.
Have you ever considered, guys, how far into the mirror realm we are? That when you condemn genocide, it's considered as something controversial.
Yep.
You know, denying
the world we live in.
Denying science, fine. Condemning genocide.
Yep, it is what it is. Obviously, what's the future for Scream 7? To be honest, I don't really give a fuck. I don't care now anymore. Like, they can do whatever they want. I'm not going to watch Scream 7. I really liked Scream 5. I had a good time watching Scream 6. I'm not watching Scream 7. Whatever happens, I don't care. I don't care because I was interested in the Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera whole dynamic, and because I completely disagree with, releasing someone who's just stated, I think, a very obvious, I think at this point it's not even an opinion, a very obvious fact.
Quick note, guys, because I'm going to take it a bit on a different side now, because Gina Carrera was also kicked out for her genuinely stupid comments, Gina Carrera. Would you though agree that she had to be kicked out?
To be fair, it is a private company doing the firing. So I mean, a private company has
Gina Carano. What were the comments? I thought it was just of how openly she lent her support to Trump and the Republican Party.
So I've looked it up now. Sharing a series of offensive posts on social media, including one implying that being a Republican today is like being Jewish during the Holocaust.
I mean, that's just it's a stupid comparison to make, obviously. But like, one thing I completely disagree with. Someone, like, at least let's speak about America here. You should be allowed to be openly Democrat as you are allowed to be openly Republican.
I mean,
you should not get fired for it.
100%.
But no, but she also was like making fun of pronouns. Then, but Bruce said some things like people were hounding her, like, you have to support pronouns. Like, you don't. You know.
Like at the end of the day, this is one of my problems with cancel culture as a whole. I don't believe in if we just kind of try to erase this person's platform or existence, it does any good for kind of anyone involved.
If anything,
Like,
it's the
where is discourse? Where is education? Where is growth? If someone disagreed with me, I just flick them like a switch and turn them off.
and her to be fair, her performance. I liked her performance. Huh?
Yeah,
yes, she was fun.
Mandalorian. And have you
yeah,
ever seen
Mandalorian.
have you ever seen her with in the Steven Soderbergh movie?
which one?
Which one?
The one with Michael Fassbender. I forgot the
I
name.
don't think so.
Because she was also really good in it. It's like she's a great action star. Yeah, the problem is her politics, but it's called the Barbara Streisand effect. The more you're trying to cancel someone, the more the bigger a platform you're giving them, basically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work that
But
way.
it's also like a really weird thing. Like now in society, we tend to like if someone just says they don't want to do something, or I like Gina Carano saying like I don't believe in pronouns and stuff like that. To me, that isn't necessarily like hate speech. It's ignorance more than anything. If someone comes out and they go like fuck pronouns and you're a fucking idiot.
No,
if
no,
you
no,
care-
no. It's
those are hateful words.
Joe.
and that's completely-
Joe, fucking pronouns.
Exactly.
Joe, Stefan is after your heart. So Stefan said on the flip side, she avoided the train wreck of the last season of Mandalorian. So there's that.
Yeah, at least. But yeah, it's a funny time for society where kind of the internet and society is picking what is right and wrong, and that like it's scary because like all this is going to do now, it's driving more and more people completely towards the other side.
Yep.
True. So true.
Because they'll either like and they'll say something and they won't have a very good argument to back themselves up, but if they just get shut down, that just builds more resentment and hate.
Oh, that's one thing. And final thoughts from myself is like, to be fair, I mean, okay, I understand this idea of listen, acknowledge me, acknowledge my presence, acknowledge my existence, understandably. But there's a bigger threat at the moment. It's not people misgendering you or whatnot, people denying your own existence. So let's
Yeah.
at least prioritize. Not saying that it's not a valid campaign, but right now people want to deny your existence. It is this idea of like, okay, don't misgender me. It is only a small part of this campaign. There's laws that are making your existence illegal, basically, at least in America.
Mm-hmm. So with that, guys, we can conclude the news. Not too much with regard to news this week. Good, because we can focus on our reviews. Let us know, viewers and listeners, in the comment section below, your thoughts on the whole Scream 7 controversy, Melissa Barrera's comments, and so on. Let us know in the comment section below. And with that, we can move on to our reviews. Joe, do you want to start off with Saltburn?
Sure, can do.
So let's start off with Saltburn. I am dying to watch it.
Jacob Elordi.
Dying to watch it.
Man, I'm still not over the fact that he's Australian. Still not over the fact. I'm as shocked as the time I got to know Toni Collette was Australian. That was mind blowing. And you're right, Joe. They're really good. Their American accents.
Their accent work is always the best. It's
True.
strange.
Very true.
So, Andrea,
Joe, your thoughts.
If you can scroll down for me slightly so I can read what this is about. I actually haven't read like what this film is actually about despite watching it. So yes, Saltburn from obviously 2023, directed by Emerald Fennell, who people will know if they have seen Promising Young Woman, starring Jacob Elordi, Barry Keoghan, Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant. There's some other people in there who I'm forgetting as well. But anyway, it's about a student at Oxford University finds himself drawn into the world of a charming and aristocratic classmate who invites him to his eccentric family's sprawling estate for a summer never to be forgotten. Now, one thing I need to state before I go into this film is the Emerald Fennell of it all. I find myself in a place with Emerald Fennell where I kind of hate how much I like her work. And this all comes from a place of, and this is going to sound really petty, and I'm just trying to like plead to people. It's not, but just like hear me out and listen to the words I'm saying.
No, Joe,
Because-
cancelled, full stop.
So for people that don't know, Emerald Fennell, again, I really like her work. Like her work on Killing Eve season 2, fantastic. I love that show. Promising a Woman, really like that. And I do like, spoiler for my review, I guess I do like Saltburn. I'll go into more detail before, but the Emerald Fennell of it all is she is someone who comes from an extremely, extremely wealthy background. She was educated at Oxford, and she kind of like got her start in like, I guess, showbiz. She was first like an actress as well, but she kind of got her start because obviously she had a couple more connections and opportunities than other people tend to do. Now it's going to sound like I'm really bitter because I'm poor, and if I was rich, I'd be able to make a film. If I was rich, I'd definitely be able to make a film a lot easier. Now, the whole good thing about this, to kind of like double back on myself, is at least she had it easier than other people, but she's making really good stuff. That's how I tend to think with this. Now, with that being said, what she has made here, a lot of people are being very like reductive about this film. They're going like, "Oh, it's basically just Talented Mr. Ripley, but with British people instead," which is extremely reductive, but it's actually not totally untrue as well. It's very, you can see the similarities to the Talented Mr. Ripley. Now, she's got this very working class character of Oliver, played by a fantastic Barry Keoghan. Hot take about Barry Keoghan, best actor under 30 currently working today. He's phenomenal. There's no one better than him. He completely embodies the characters. He's got an incredible physicality. Like, and Jacob Elordi, who is good in this film as well, granted his character has a bit less to him. I was speaking to my girlfriend after this film, and I was just like, just the way Barry Keoghan decides to walk and what that imbues into the character is just really interesting. A little like tics he has here and there. But there's like a part of me really, really likes this film. Like really, really, really likes it. When I was entertained, it's fucking beautiful, shot on gorgeous 35mm Kodak film. It's incredibly stylish. It's directed really, really well. And its pacing is good, and there's a lot of payoff and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people, actually, I say a lot of people, it tends to be American critics. The problem that they're finding with this film is that it's really good looking, it's provocative, the performances are good, but it has nothing to say. You know? Because it is like, there is like this kind of like class debate with it, because you've got this working class guy and this extremely aristocratic like family as well. They're like, I remember in the film I was looking to my girlfriend the whole time when these rich people came in, and I'm like, I fucking hate every single one of these people. But they're all like, but they're also just like hilarious in a way, just because they're the way they're written with like such a disconnect from like the real world. There's a particular line which they have a discussion about Liverpool and where it is, and it's fucking hilarious and definitely accurate to what these kinds of people probably have discussions about. But this is where I come to kind of like my conclusion and mission statement on this film. Because again, I really, really like this film. It's not perfect. I probably like it a bit less than Promising Young Woman, which I thought was fantastic. I don't know about you guys. But do all films have to have something to say? Can't we just have a really good-looking, well-done psychosexual thriller
100%.
with really good performances? Does there have to be some kind of comment on like class or society? And also then to kind of like rein this in what I said about Emerald Fennell before, and how I feel a little bit like kind of like tongue-in-cheek about her own upbringing and the opportunities she had. I think the very last person who has a right to comment on class divide and that in society is Emerald Fennell. So actually, props to her for not trying to say anything about it. I think the thing that she ultimately says in this film is, one, people are vampires, especially rich people. And two, you can have absolutely everything in life. Everything given to you, every opportunity. You can have it totally fucking easy with a nice family who provide you with everything. And you can still be totally fucking insane. You know? I think that's the only thing that this film is trying to say. I don't think it needs to say anything about the class divide. It doesn't need to say anything about society. It's for me, it's really good. I really, really liked it. So my girlfriend loved it. It was like a film of the year. It is, I will say, with a giant underlined disclaimer, parts of it are absolutely fucking disgusting with like things that characters are doing on the screen, like hard to stomach shit, like things I didn't expect that were in this. And I saw an incredible Letterboxd review about it, and it's actually not a spoiler, but someone wrote as a Letterboxd review with a resounding 5 stars. I don't think it's a 5-star. I think it's a 4 out of 5 to kind of spoil my rating before I finish this. But this film does for bathtubs what Call Me by Your Name did for peaches.
Yes, I read this review as well. I read this review as well. I saw it on Letterboxd.
I'll just let you. I'll let you sit with that. That's one of my favorite Letterboxd reviews. And another one of my favorite reviews was "Boy Needs to Be Neutered," which I completely agree with. But no, it's a shame that I don't think you guys will get to see this in theaters in Malta unless
Probably.
a certain other cinema that doesn't sponsor us gets it. But no, it's even just like the choice to, and a lot of people will say like, oh, it could be pretentious. It's shot in 4:5, the more square ratio. But it's like, again, this is the good thing about like, because I kind of like, again, the whole Emerald Fennell thing, I go like, she had like all this money and opportunity and she probably had it so easy. Again, it's great that she's doing good work. She's definitely done her homework. She's a great writer, great director, because the choice to put it in 4:5, that's the best aspect ratio for lots of close-ups and facial expressions. And there are tons in this film. She's doing it correctly. She's doing great work. I'm really excited to see what she does next.
Great stuff. So 4 out of 5, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. I'm really looking forward to watching it
Yeah.
in whatever way I can.
Yeah.
Basically.
And if people then decide to watch it and come at me with it has nothing to say, I'm going to reply to them, I have nothing to say to you.
All right. So that is.
I missed that acid. I missed that Joe acid. But
I'm back and I'm still just as spicy as I was.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, just enjoy the fucking movie. Don't expect.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful, fucking well-made, entertaining film.
Just as if like you're expecting Napoleon to say something about the French Revolution.
Exactly.
Or to be actually slightly historically accurate.
Before we go into the Napoleon review, if you go into a Ridley Scott film expecting any kind of historical,
No, don't worry. That's not. I'm not going into a Ridley Scott movie
to make it relatable for our Maltese audience. That's like going to a Labour rally expecting them to speak about the nationalists.
Exactly. But before we get into that biopic, here's another biopic which was released on Netflix, Rustin, which I'll review in probably 2 minutes. Suggested to us by Keith. I watched Rustin, which is directed by George C. Wolfe. George C. Wolfe, who made one of my favorite movies. Don't know what year it was released, but 2020, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I love that movie so much. I really, really like this movie. With one of the best performances I've seen recently by Viola Davis. And also by Chadwick Boseman.
One of his last movies. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, not his last, but one of his last. Anyway, so going into this movie, knowing the director who made, basically, like I said, one of my favorite movies of 2020, I was very excited to watch it. I expected more. I'm going to be honest. I expected more. But the movie is basically about activist Baird Rustin, who is a well-known, charismatic, homosexual civil rights activist. He was the person to basically organize the March on Washington in 1963, the march which eventually led to one of the most famous speeches, I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King, where you had basically over 200,000 people gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Okay, message taken. Stefan told you, okay, message taken, Joe. I think Stefan is the kind of person to think that every movie needs to have some kind of like message or ideology or idea behind it being pushed. I'm curious because I know Stefan is obviously a very like political person. He's very interested in politics and so on. So that might be the way he looks at movies and series and art in general. It needs to have a message. Rustin does have a political message. Clearly, it's about one of the most politically active persons in America. Um, Overall, I think the one big positive I can say about this movie is the main performance by Coleman Domingo. He's the best thing about this movie. I think he gives an Oscar nomination worthy performance, and we'll probably be seeing him mentioned when we talk about the Academy Awards later on, and probably next year. Definitely a flawed character being portrayed here. Really well done, incredibly charismatic, incredibly powerful performance. I really like this performance. It's overall quite well paced. It's doesn't never slows down basically. Well paced. Time also it's 1 hour 46 minutes. So no, it was about the historical inaccuracies comment. Ridley Scott, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we'll get into that in like 2 minutes, Stefan. So there's some good humor here as well. Some very good humor. I laughed quite a few times. Overall, I think the politics of this period of time is portrayed well, showing all different facets of the civil rights movement. But it's very by the books. Very by the books. It's like, here is your historic biopic about a famous personality. What are all the beats you expect to see? They're all there. What is everything you expect to see there is all there. Is there anything like special about it? Anything that is like, wow, okay, I really recommend? Not really, apart from the performance. I really don't have a lot of criticisms to say, except it's really by the books, which is, I think, one of the biggest criticism I can give a movie like this, with such a special performance and such an important political figure. It's very by the books, very by the books. So overall, would I recommend Rustin? Kind of. If you want to see the performance by Coleman Domingo, it's a very interesting personality. I think probably documentaries about him would be more interesting to see than this movie. Overall, a 3 out of 5 from me for Rustin. Just to be honest, for the performance. The performance is that good. I am completely fine with Nihilist Start. Nihilist Start, so fair enough, Stefan. Completely fine with Nihilist Start. So overall, 3 out of 5 for Rustin. Not much, really don't have much to say here, because there's nothing much to say about this movie. So that is Rustin. Franco, shall we get into it? The big one.
Tlaqna. You saw it as well, right, Joe?
I did in full IMAX glory.
Oh,
It's
lucky.
it's Napoleon time.
Peter Bradshaw, by the way, gave it a
5 out
5-star
of
review.
It's not.
Of
It's
course he
it's not a 5-star. It's not a 5-star. Wait, come on. It's not a 5-star. But
You
anyway,
must be. I'm sorry, Peter. I've never met you, but you must be the most inconsistent film reviewer I have ever seen.
I wish I would still look forward for him to be a guest on our podcast, though. Still look forward
Be
to
a great
that time.
debate. Great
No,
By
it
the way,
would be-
Franco, can I just say this before you get into the review? Joe, as I was watching the movie, I was thinking about you. Thinking, Joe is going to hate this movie. And I was surprised when I saw your Letterboxd. I'm not going to spoil your Letterboxd rating.
Okay.
But I watched it, I was like, Jesus, Joe is going to hate this movie so much.
Why did you think I would hate it?
I'll mention after so we don't spoil the reviews. But get into it, Franco, and then we'll talk about this.
No, and I didn't hate it either. Yeah? So anyway, but Napoleon, it's an epic that details the checkered rise and fall of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and his relentless journey to power through the prism of his addictive, volatile relationship with his wife Josephine. A great Vanessa Kirby. For a moment, I still cannot get it out of my head that she looks like Lady Gaga. Sorry, Vanessa Kirby. And I hope I don't bump into her when she comes back to Malta, apparently, because she was enamored by the country. Look, I mean, as far as history and what's not, guys, this is not. I never expected it to be like historically accurate. I laughed a lot. I'm sorry, like there were moments where I was like laughing out loud, as if it's almost like Ridley Scott is lampooning the figure of Bonaparte. After all, I genuinely thoroughly enjoyed the battle scenes, especially Austerlitz. The ice battle is like well directed. Even Waterloo, which I also another mind-blowing moment was realizing that was Rupert Everett playing Wellington. Pitch perfect performance, even though it was only for a few minutes on screen. Um, love the boats line. Oh my god, the boats line.
No, no,
What?
I love the boat slide.
Yes.
no.
Wait, can we just say, because Franco said he feels like it was lampooning. Can we understand that at the time of filming and making this film, an 84-year-old knighted, extremely proud Englishman made this film about a Frenchman?
You can tell.
Of course, he is going to lampoon him and make fun of him with how prickly Ridley Scott is as a person. Of course, he was going to make fun of him.
I
I'm
mean,
glad he did. It was very entertaining.
no, very entertaining. I mean, and 85-year-old. But to be honest, then that comes to my comments about him, Scorsese. Like, I think they have to. If let's hope Michael Mann doesn't follow that route as well. How long is Ferrari touted to be?
I don't know.
I hope it's 3 days long.
But
Franco,
2 hours, 10 minutes.
Franco,
not
with
too long.
Okay,
this,
okay.
I'm on the other side of the argument with you with this. These old dudes, let them cook, because when they're dead, we'll miss them dearly.
No, that's fair enough. No, I agree with Joe on this. Like I said with Martin
Let
Scorsese.
them cook.
No,
That's what I
but
say.
I'm sorry, but they do need a bit of reining in. I mean, Napoleon needed lots of reining in, and even though I enjoyed it much more than Hunger Games. Like, who wouldn't? Sorry.
I enjoyed Hunger Games more.
It's but you are a history nerd, so nerds. There you go.
Where I'll fight you on the Scorsese one is that Killers of the Flower Moon, it was edited by his longtime editor, Thelma Schoonmaker, the best editor of all time. I think she would know whether to cut
No,
that film, and she did not.
no,
Yes, I agree, Joe.
well, there was, but I'm sorry.
But we won't talk about Killers of the Flower Moon.
No.
Exactly.
No.
We're talking about Napoleon, and I agree with Bruce this time. I disagree a lot with Bruce, but with this one, I agree totally.
What did Bruce say
Snip,
about
snip.
Napoleon?
No, no,
I don't see his comment.
about Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, okay, all right.
But
okay.
Napoleon, I don't know. I mean, this film looked gorgeous, by the way. Really looked gorgeous. I don't know who was the cinematographer.
I
Good question.
believe.
Beautifully shot, though. I agree on that.
I think it's the same guy who's doing Michael Mann's film as well, who also did The Killer. I could be completely wrong. Is in my head.
Eric. Oh my God, what's his name? He's got quite a German name.
He was a lighting gaffer, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Not Cronenweth, but not Jeff Cronenweth. Eric something. Anyway, Eric
So
with a
I
K.
looked it up.
No, this is actually a better one. This is Darius Wolski.
Wolski. Yeah,
Yeah.
Darius Wolski.
It looks gorgeous. Like I
Yeah.
remember certain moments when there were lit in silhouette. Him and he was having some lunch with Tsar Nicholas, if I'm not mistaken, and Tsar Alexander. Sorry. And I forgot there was another moment where I was really impressed by the lighting. Like this guy looked at some French painting.
But Franco, talking about the lighting, don't you think some of the battle scenes were a bit too dark? Like for me, that's one of the biggest issues. Like Austerlitz, as beautiful as it is.
That sounds like a screen and cinema problem, because I didn't.
It wasn't. It wasn't dark for me. Ta vera.
For me, I like.
Austerlitz was not dark at all.
I don't know. So I thought, even like the costumes. Why are the costumes so? Everything is so like grayish, darkish. Like the costumes should be so colorful. Napoleon is one of the most colorful figures ever. Look at the paintings. Like his colors are red, powerful red. Not
Dude,
black and
that's
gray and
that's propaganda, by the way. But
yes, but if you go to make a movie about Napoleon,
don't. Yeah, but it's a movie about Napoleon from a British guy, isn't it? He's not gonna lionize this guy, is he?
No, at all.
If you want to make like a funny movie about Napoleon, push into more into like this, what Napoleon thought he was. Napoleon thought he was this like Alexander the Great,
Yeah,
Julius Caesar. He
adored
those
talk
people.
about destiny and stuff like that. He's always,
But visually, I think that is not done well, in my opinion. Like even the costumes for the soldiers, I'm sorry, but soldiers' costumes were incredibly colorful for a reason, because soldiers needed to know who they were fighting against. Costumes were really dull for the soldiers. Nobility-wise, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous. But the uniforms used by the soldiers, I'm sorry, I was disappointed there.
I'm only going to disagree, but then again, I have the different experience of seeing it in IMAX.
That helps. That helps. That helps.
And that's Joe's Saltburn again for us not having IMAX. Okay.
Sorry, Franco. I interrupted you. Continue.
No, it's fine. I do the interruption usually, so I deserve it. No, I enjoyed it. It's not Ridley Scott's best.
No, far from
it. But it was an enjoyable watch. I didn't mind the inaccuracies. It is again. It is too long. It is too long. There are some moments where they could have gone without, but other than that's like looking at it was fine. Just like even I switched off the critics and like, man, this movie looks wonderful. Even the costumes and the lighting. Those battle scenes were amazing. I have like the Austerlitz one was one of really well, like it showed that it was but then again I have to give it to Andrea that it was like they didn't follow the exact tactics that he used. But then again, we're not watching a documentary.
Not at all. It's just I heard this comment and I completely agree with it. It's a medieval.
Where he got him to fire cannons at the pyramids. Obviously, that didn't fucking happen, but it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks
But
cool.
some of the stuff would have looked cooler if they followed the history. That's what I'll get into later on.
Yeah, like my main issue with this film is that it does feel long, but I also then feel like if you cut anything out of it, you already don't have enough kind of like substance to go on. It's too short and it's too long all at once. It's a really bizarre thing, but and that's the problem when you're doing a film about a figure whose like career, for lack of a better term, spanned so long. Like I'll be under the impression of the 4-hour cut of this, which is going to come out on Apple eventually, will probably be much better, although longer. But you'd probably be better suited to watch it in 1-hour installments like a TV show. But it will definitely have much more detail in it. Mm-hmm. And that's what like if you're going to do Napoleon right, that's what you kind of need to do. You need to give that character the detail and the time they deserve.
That's you need to do a war and peace, basically. You need to do a war.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, wow, like this movie's really long, but then I'm like, holy shit, like we've just jumped 7 years. like from
the Italian campaign is completely skipped. One of the most important campaigns.
We can have our claim to fame as Maltese people and mention the whole like Malta part missing as well.
Yeah.
The 3 years between the Russian retreat and the armies, the alliance armies reaching the gates of Paris, completely skipped. Like, how can you make a Napoleon movie and not show that? The downfall of Napoleon.
Because you're given 2.5 hours.
By the way, guys, did you feel proud to be Maltese after watching the movie?
Can I mention? Did you find it awkward seeing Toulon and just seeing Valletta? Like I was completely out of it there.
This is one really difficult thing, which I think us as Maltese, we're not used to it as much because Malta it's used in a lot of films, obviously. But when it's used in something as big as this, we're obviously looking out for it a lot more, and we recognize places because we've lived on that tiny rock for most of our lives, if not all. But it's kind of one thing you kind of have to tell yourself, like, I actually think Ridley Scott dresses Malta up very well.
Yes.
No, 100%, 100%.
But
I mean,
Mdina was three places. Like, but all he did was just turn the camera over there. Yeah. So
actually, one thing which really annoyed me in the film, I don't know if you guys noticed it, when he leaves Elba, they leave from like the bay of Einthoven, Riviera Bay.
Yeah. Yep.
and he leaves, but then when he comes back and he's in France, it's the exact same fucking beat. But like to the point where the thing that gives it away are the rocks in the background. The rocks in Elba are the exact same rocks in France. And I was like, Jesus, Ridley, like you could have just gone like on the other side, the Golden Bay. But yeah,
that was with his Zuri as well, Lushek. I think I saw it with his Zuri as well. Oh, it's so beautiful there, man.
But I was I still remember like a really funny example to me. I'm sure you guys had seen the Count of Monte Cristo remake, the one that came out in the 2000s. That one, there's a really funny one. It's just like a helicopter shot of like the Grand Harbor with like a load of CGI put in, and it's like Marseille.
No, yeah, exactly.
Which but for us, I guess we're not as used to it. Like I can imagine, like for Americans, like where like loads of like New York locations are used,
Vancouver,
or places like Vancouver and stuff like that. I can imagine people from those places are doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
No, they do it.
We're doing.
I mean, even the Batman, Gotham, they use part of it was Chicago, and then go up to Liverpool and Glasgow.
And Glasgow as well. A lot of Glasgow was used in the Batman, but then that was less noticeable because they dressed up that film so much to look like a comic.
And not to mention,
apparently some of the signs, Joe, were wrong. I was going through some comments about that.
In a film like The Flash, for example, where they used Glasgow as well, they did it in a fucking extremely lazy way.
But then again, we're not mentioning Marseille, a real location. Gotham is an imaginary city.
Yeah.
Guys, what did you think about the tone of the movie? Because that's one of the things that really threw me off. It felt like there's two movies here with two different tones. The serious historical biopic and the black, dark humor romantic comedy. Like, did you feel that at all? Or
I don't know. I kind of bought in from like their first kind of like date where they're sitting in the sun having that. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. And then I'm like, I'm in straight away. So it wasn't too jarring to me. And I was like, and again, I was seeing this as like, I genuinely believe that Ridley Scott was making fun of Napoleon with the way they depicted his character in this film. Even the fact that like the poster is like he came from nothing to like take everything.
He didn't come from nothing.
Exactly. That's also like making fun of it in a way. But no, yeah, like Andrea, how do you not like the boat?
Some British shade. Some British shade.
That made
Joe, I'm so worried that the guy who wrote this, David Scarpa, he's writing he wrote Gladiator 2, and he's writing a Denis Villeneuve movie. Oh my God, Cleopatra. He's writing Cleopatra for Denis Villeneuve, and I'm so worried.
It's a bit worrying.
I'm so worried. I'm sorry.
To be fair, I'm less worried for Gladiator 2 because that has like there's nothing to do with like history. It's just set in the Roman era. So like unless they decide to like fucking throw Julius Caesar in there for no reason. No, the boats line made everyone laugh in the theater. You think you're so good because you have boats? Yeah, everyone was like dying when that line came out.
Scottish audience. That's why.
It's like some of my other criticisms was, this felt like a best hits of Napoleon kind of movie.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Which I guess I don't think we can discuss.
But then again, if you're mentioning that they skipped over the Italian campaign.
Oh, they skipped over a lot. I have a whole list here. Now I'll tell you guys.
No, let's not make it a history lesson. Sir, you don't strike today. Don't teach us.
Oh, do you want to go into it really quickly? Well, let's go into it really quickly.
Don't teach us.
Sprint through it.
You're on strike.
I'm going to sprint through this. I'm going to sprint through this.
Actually, before you go through it, I'm going to say what I say to people when they complain about historical inaccuracies in film. And I'm going to say, like, for people that probably came to this podcast to listen about films, if you want to learn about history, go read a fucking book or listen to a history podcast. Don't go and watch a movie by Ridley Scott.
100%. No, 100%. I completely agree with you there. The thing is, when it's a character as interesting as Napoleon, who had one of the wildest lives I think anyone has ever had, like, all you have to do is show what he really did.
But then you have a film which is already 2.5 hours long, which is probably going to be 6 hours long.
Yes, 100%. But
if they were making a television series, Andrea, this is where I would 150,000% agree with you. Of do the good shit, do it right, and pay attention to stuff.
But there's scenes where Napoleon does stuff completely out of character. That's the stuff that I'm really going to focus on. Like for example, so the movie starts off with Marie Antoinette. You know, we see the very famous Marie Antoinette
Oh,
guillotine scene.
true. Sorry to interrupt myself now.
Why was that shown?
But this was also very gory. I didn't know it went there.
Very gory for a Ridley movie. He doesn't normally do that much gore.
Anyways, we see Paul Barras give him leadership for the siege of Toulon. False, that's not true. He didn't give him leadership. That was done in 1795. Then the siege of Toulon. Fine, I like the siege of Toulon. Probably one of the most historically accurate parts of the movie.
The siege of Telmo.
But that scene was good. I liked it a lot.
Really good.
Well,
Up to that point, I was like, "Oh wow, okay, fair enough."
and did you see army standing as Moscow? Sorry, no, that was inaccurate of me. Oh, army people, don't cancel me, please.
The whole Robespierre part was done well, I think, overall. I mean, as best as they could with the time they have. The artillery scene with the royalists, I think, again, that was really well done as well. It shows how sometimes evil Napoleon was at times, like shooting cannons into like people protesting. I wish they put in one of the most famous quotes about Napoleon, that he used a whiff of grape shot. That quote, I remember from history, was one of the most, like he cleared the streets with a whiff of grape shot. That's a great quote. I think they should have used that. And obviously this event was very important because Napoleon was given command of the army of Italy, which completely cut out. Not just mentioned in the letter to Josephine. So we skipped the whole Italian campaign, where the French army won 18 battles, 18 pitched battles. So we skipped past all of that, using the classic artillery by Napoleon. The Battle of the Pyramids, that obviously completely accurate. It's true. Napoleon shot cannons at. No, they are so far. I think the Battle of the Pyramids was miles away from the actual pyramids. I know it's called the Battle of Pyramids, but they actually weren't even close to. The sad thing is that the battle is fascinating when you hear the story about how Napoleon positioned his troops in big like blocks of soldiers with their bayonets pointing out, and the Mamelukes charged in with their very famous cavalry. Like that would have been a fantastic scene to shoot. I wish they showed that, not fucking Napoleon shooting cannons at the pyramids. Like that would have
the cannons at the pyramids are pretty fucking cool.
I think it's
the speech by Napoleon, one of the most famous speeches by Napoleon in the Battle of the Pyramids. I wrote it down here. Soldiers, you came to this country to save the inhabitants from barbarism, to bring civilization to the Orient and subtract this beautiful part of the world from the domination of England. From the top of those pyramids, 40 centuries are contemplating you. Like that speech. Goosebumps.
Now watch as I shoot a cannon at this pyramid.
And Napoleon adored Egyptian culture. He took academics with him to Egypt. He was never going to shoot the pyramids, and he adored Egyptian history.
This is all really interesting, and I understand your point. But expecting even 0.3% of this in a Ridley Scott film is just wishful thinking.
Leaving Egypt and leaving the army because of Josephine. Completely false. He would never leave the army because of Josephine. There's no way. That is so out of character. Completely out of. Never. He would have never done that.
We should also ask a bit of the chat who's here. Like we have 8 people watching, and should wonder whether they should have left the cannon shot of the pyramids in or not.
Yeah, true.
Let's poll.
Yeah. He becomes first consul. Fine, all of that is true. Moving on to then he becomes first consul and then he's emperor. What the fuck? What was that time jump? Like that was so awkward. That was really jarring.
Got 2.5 hours.
No, true. That part's okay. Fair enough.
That was also funny. Shall we vote? The shall we vote line was also funny.
Yes, that was actually funny. Austerlitz. I think no one can complain about like as action scene, as a battle scene. It was fun to watch, but it was
Fucking dope.
completely inaccurate, obviously.
Ridley's
Like
version's cooler.
no. What Napoleon does there is he gives way on the right flank. Now, this I'm trying to remember because I did some reading yesterday.
Came
I
back on this
forgot some of the
podcast
stuff.
after a month. I'm getting a fucking history lesson.
His right flank gave away his right flank.
Not that they don't strike, Joe. They don't strike.
I didn't do any teaching today, so I have to get stuff out of my system.
By the way, Stefan said I'm Team Andrea on this one.
Yeah, go, Stefan.
Cancelled, Stefan. Cancelled.
They even gave up the high ground. They even gave up the high ground to invite the Austro-Russian army to attack them, and that was one of the most impressive Napoleon victories ever. It's true they used their cannons, and it's true that they shot at some frozen ponds with their enemies retreating and falling into the pond and whatnot. So that's true. But what actually happens is Napoleon gives away the right flank and then uses the mass of the soldiers to push into the center of their enemies, which is fascinating, splitting up the Russian and the Austrian army into two and then destroying them in the flanks. Fascinating stuff. Anyways, then
I
the
saw
Josephine scene.
I saw Obi-Wan on the higher ground as well. That was also not accurate.
What did you guys think about the slapping of Josephine? I'm gonna ask you guys. Slapping Josephine when they're reading the divorce papers.
I don't know. For me, because I was like just enjoying the film for what it was, my brain went straight to yes, this was when men could do that with zero consequence.
It never happened, by the way. It's never happened.
Yeah. To be fair, the little bit I know about Napoleon is that he was just so fucking in love with this woman. So I don't think he would do something
That's
like
true.
that.
That's true.
But yeah.
Plus, he's well known as being one of the biggest historical figures when it came to respecting, for the time
For
period,
the time.
but educating, the importance of education for women. He taught his generals and his captains and so on should be married to educated women. So he really pushed a lot for the education of women. And even the fact that he adored that woman so much, both in the movie and in history, historically. So it felt really out of character, not just as a historical inaccuracy, but also in the movie itself. Felt very out of character for me. Anyways, Peninsular War, not even mentioned. Don't you want to introduce our antagonist in this movie? Antagonist for Napoleon, obviously, who is the Duke of Wellington. That would have been a perfect campaign to mention and introduce this man. And even in, for example, I was watching Waterloo. There's a really good line. Why is it always Wellington by Napoleon in that? And that brings out the antagonist for Napoleon, right? Who is Wellington, who was the guy who managed to defeat him both in Spain and eventually, obviously, in Waterloo. Spoilers.
Spoilers for history.
Anyways, so long story short, the downfall. This is something also I missed in this movie. All right, we have the scene in Moscow was stunning. That scene when he sits down on the throne with the birds pooping. The pigeons pooping, that was spectacular.
And the fire,
really beautiful scene.
and the fire as well when Moscow.
Great stuff. But then after that, why don't you show the downfall of Napoleon with the mutiny and all his loyal captains and admirals and all of those mutinying against him and forcing him to abdicate? It felt weak. The downfall felt really weak.
Andrea, the more you talk about this, the more I feel like the 4-hour cut will be much better. Not
I hope so.
Not as accurate, but much better.
It depends what the 4-hour cut decides to focus on. Because apparently the 4-hour cut includes a lot more of Josephine.
Listen, I liked Vanessa Kirby. I liked it a lot, but
Yeah,
I thought a lot of time was wasted. I mean, not wasted. It wasn't wasted. It just needs to. I mean,
I think we can all agree if we want to get a great Napoleon thing, it needs to be a 3-season show of 24 episodes per season, an hour each.
Yeah.
All directed.
Like they used to do back in the day.
All directed by Ridley Scott. No.
Yeah.
And all written by David Scott as well.
Oh no.
No.
To conclude, guys, can I just mention? I have 2 points left to mention. There's two other historical inaccuracies. Actually, the scene with Napoleon meeting the 5th Regiment, who come to after he returns from Elba, and then he starts gathering up soldiers again. That scene was really good. I really liked that scene. I thought that was one of the best scenes, and they actually used the real quote in that as well. Like here I am, shoot you. Are you going to shoot the emperor?
Mhm.
Something like that. Now that's really well done. And I think the Battle of Waterloo was beautifully done. Completely historically inaccurate, but beautifully done. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Yeah. And Napoleon and Arthur Wellesley never met. So that scene was also completely historically accurate. So overall, if I had to say, I had fun watching it. It's a fun movie, but I mean, Napoleon is such an interesting, like historical personality that you can just show what really happened to him, and you could make a great movie with it. Joe, rating?
3.5 out of 5. It's like
okay.
some parts of it are spectacular, particularly the battles, and I like the comedic elements. But as I said, my thing it falls onto it's too long, but it's also too short. Which it's a tough place for a film to be. I don't feel like I learned anything new about Napoleon from this.
Same here.
Which I don't think I needed to. It would have been nice. It definitely would have been nice. But no, to be honest, it is exactly what I expected a Ridley Scott Napoleon film to be.
Franco, your rating?
I'm going to say 3.25 because
Now we're splitting hairs.
no, because the Rotten Tomato score 65% is bang on the bug. That's what I say. Like highly enjoyable. Come for the entertainment. Don't stay for the history. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, again, the length doesn't help. The more I listened to Andrea speak, I feel like the 4-hour cut might include more of these details, which might have made a better. So it's still up in the air. This is just speculation.
Maybe it will be the Kingdom of Heaven cut. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, this
Kingdom of Heaven cut rules.
this is not Ridley Scott's best, but it's definitely enjoyable. And again, like watch it in cinemas. Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
And
100%.
It's definitely worth it in the cinema.
And come out proud to be Maltese here after you watch it.
And in conclusion, my rating, I think, is a 3 out of 5. Overall, I had a fun time watching it. It's a well-made, technically astonishing movie. The battle scenes, whilst completely historically inaccurate, are fine. They're fun to watch. I'm not convinced with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think he should have been Napoleon. I think we needed a more charismatic. Like, he is charismatic when he wants to. Just his portrayal here is a bit different. Like, this is the guy who had 1,000 soldiers, and just by being himself and just with a small speech, gathered 100 or almost 200,000 soldiers.
Quick trivia, Andrea. Apparently, like a week before shooting, Joaquin Phoenix lost the whole thread of.
He went through Ridley Scott and he was like, "What the hell do I do with this character?" And they spent like 10 days going through it scene by scene.
And he has some good moments. Like
that's probably a bit of a script issue as well.
Oh no, he's going to ruin Gladiator too. Oh no,
I don't think so. Like Gladiators do like go fucking nuts, you know.
Yeah. No. I don't mind. Like, do whatever the fuck you want to. But then Cleopatra, we'll see. But then there's Denis Villeneuve. I trust Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 5. It's a fun movie. I think it has a lot of issues, lots of problems, but overall, I mean, I had a good time at the cinema. The CGI was really good as well. I wanted to mention that CGI was fucking great. Thank you, Apple, for putting in a lot of money into this movie. I'm just gonna say it. I don't like Apple products, but Apple throwing all this money into Ridley Scott and Martin Scorsese's hands, please continue doing this. I hope it's worth it for them, because I want them to keep on doing this, because this is great. And the fact that they come out in cinemas and not on Apple TV is, again, great.
Yep.
And I think we can end it here, guys. I hope our viewers and listeners enjoyed our review for Napoleon. For more on Napoleonic history, join me.
Join me on the Napoleon podcast.
On the Napoleon podcast, coming to YouTube soon. One podcast is enough. But it's a good one, guys. Really glad to have you all back, Astra, the Holy Trinity. We're back for episode 49, and next week is episode 50. I'm excited for that.
What's the episode?
Shit.
What's the episode, Joe?
No, we can't because I unfortunately can't make 50 because I'll be away.
Uh,
So it's okay, Andrea. You have another 2
I
weeks.
have
to
2
finally
weeks,
watch it.
exactly. So it's episode 49.5, Mala. Okay.
49.5. Fair enough. And thank you to all our viewers and listeners for joining us. I hope you had a good time watching this podcast. I had a great time as always. And with that, I think we can peace
So,
out.
guys, do support us. Leave us a like, subscribe, comment. Do interact with us. We love speaking to you guys while you chat with us. Say Andrea's wrong and say that Andrea needs to watch The Empty Man.
No, Stefan agrees with me. He's on my team.
Also watch the movies that we review when they're out on Embassy as well. Thank you for sponsoring us, Embassy. And with that, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Andrea, for always hosting and being a great host and awesome teacher as well, history teacher.
Back to school tomorrow. Strike is over. Ciao, ciao.